Well, when Rabbi Kutaf asked me to come here to say a few words to the boys, then, what did I say to the boys here? He said to give a schmooze. So I thought we'll have a little schmooze here. I wasn't sure what to schmooze about. So I thought of two possible topics, and maybe we'll talk about both of them, maybe we'll talk about one of them, I'm not sure, we'll see how long it takes. But one of the ideas that I thought of discussing was why everyone hates us. The other topic which I thought of discussing was the Jewish attitude to physical pleasure. So those are the two things which I had on my mind at the moment to talk about. I think maybe we'll start, why does everyone hate us? So, I spend a lot of time traveling, international traveling. You sit on a plane, you sit here and you take an internal American flight, you have one or two Jews sitting with you. Most of the people completely quiet, silent, nothing's happening. Everybody's doing what they're doing or not doing what they're not doing, or sleeping or reading or watching. Then you get on your connecting flight to Tel Aviv. All of a sudden, wow, there's noise and it's busy and everything's happening. And you're thinking, hey, what happened? Teretz is, there's a whole plane full of Jews here, all going together to Tel Aviv, or coming from Tel Aviv, it makes no difference. Then the noise level goes up, and there's crying babies, and even if there isn't, there's people making a noise and having a good time. What's happened? The Gemara says in Beitzer, there's Sholish Azim Heim. Yisrael Ba'umas, Kerev B'chayes, and Tarnagol Ba'oifas. The Yisrael are the Azim of the Umas. What's it mean, Azim of the Umas? No idea. Yeah, what's it mean, Jewish chutzpah? What's that all about? The Kelev B'chayes I did once hear from Ramesh Shapiro, how you see a dog is Azim Shebechayes. He says, dog is man's best friend. That's what they said back in England. I don't know, did they say it here in America too? Yeah. So, what's that? Dog is man's best friend. He pushes his nose in where he's not meant to be. He becomes part of the family. He's sitting around with people instead of with animals. That's what Azim Shebechayes is all about. The Jewish people also, they can't sit still. They're making a noise. They're going, they're busy, they're coming, they're going. They can't hold themselves in at all. That's what Azim Shabumas means. And the Marshal says there that the reason why the Gemara explains that the Torah was given to us because the Torah is Mateshes Koichei Shel Adam. The Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara just says that the Torah was given to us because we're Azim. Generally one would assume that means that because we're Azim, that's a positive quality. Because we have this positive quality of Azus, that's why we're given the Torah. The Marshal explains, no, we have this negative quality of Azus, which is what we were just describing now, when everything's making a noise and coming and going and busy and you can't sit still for a moment. That's the Azim Shabumas. That's something which is unique to the Jewish people. And because we have that, therefore we were given the Torah to be Mateshes Koichei Shel Adam. Generally you assume that learning Torah makes you feel physically weak. No, the Torah is there to curb all our Azus, to make us into human beings capable of being part of society. That's what the Torah was given to us for. And that's why, because we're Azin Sheba'umas, that's why we were given the Torah. I would like to suggest that perhaps that's another reason why for the anti-Semitism. There's also a spiritual reason for anti-Semitism, but it could be that the physical manifestation of the Azin Sheba'umas, that's what gets a lot on their nerves. I remember recently there was some story in Germany with a bunch of a plane load of people, and with the COVID regulations, and the staff didn't understand the passengers, and the passengers didn't understand the staff. It was just crossed lines. You come to Germany, which is the Avia voice of Edom. Everything is rules and regulations, and keep to the rule, and don't move, and keep quiet, and don't make it. You can't have a bunch load of Jews who can't sit still and can't do anything. That was the classic clash between the Edom who wants his rules and the Jews who are Azim Sheba'umas, they just can't sit still. The Torah was given to us from Mateshes Koicha to make us into Miyushav Dika people. When we don't keep to that, or we don't use it well enough, we're not talking necessarily people who don't learn, but if they don't internalize the messages of the Torah and become they're reasonable human beings, then they keep with that azus, so you can see it makes no difference, religious, non-religious. There's always this azus which is breaking forward, and that's what we need the koyach of the Torah for. That's possibly another way of looking at the anti-Semitism in the world. I mean, there's the spiritual ideas of anti-Semitism.
Like on the plane, all the people that are making this hopkins,
Yeah.
I don't know all the pictures we see.
Oh, there's all sorts. But as I said, it doesn't make a difference if you're learning it. It makes a difference if you're internalizing the messages which you're meant to take from it. You can internalize those messages even if you're learning an hour or two a day, or if you're learning 10 hours a day, just sitting there and reading, then it's not doing anything for you. But that's what was a thought which was on my mind about anti-Semitism. Now, what about the Jewish relationship? How does Judaism relate to physical pleasure? So that we know from the Alter of Slobodka that he used to read the Mesilas Yesharim like this. The Yisoid Avodah V'Sheresh HaChasidus HaTmima, that the Yisoid of everything is She's Barav Yisam zt'l Adam. What his chayva b'olame? What's the purpose that a person was put on this world? Ma she'iruna Rabbeinu hu she'adam le'nivra ela le'sanig. The purpose of a person was put in this world was for pleasure. Yeah, I know it's not what they normally say, but that's how the Alter Slobodka used to read the Mesilas Yesharim. He used to read it, ha'adam le'nivra ela le'sanig. A person was created for pleasure. We were always taught that you have to read it you don't put the comma over there. You carry on. Ha'adam le'nivra ela le'sanig al Hashem. To get spiritual pleasure. But he said no. Ha'adam le'nivra le'sanig. Person was created for pleasure. Now you can continue al Hashem. But the purpose, you have to get into your mind that the purpose is for pleasure. Hashem didn't put us here to suffer. He put us in this world so we should have pleasure. The highest level of pleasure that one can have, there is Lisanig al Hashem. Shezehu ha'tainug ha'godol va'amiti. That's the sublime form of pleasure that there is. But any pleasure has in it an element of that Lisanig al Hashem. So how can it be that we know, we're not meant to just be eat and merry because tomorrow we're going to die? That's not the Jewish attitude on pleasure. So how do we reconcile these two conflicting views that we find? So Mesilas Yesharim also explains that. He explains that pleasure is only pleasure when you decide to have the pleasure. If the pleasure decides to have you, then it stops to become enjoyable. So therefore, taking from physical pleasures in this world has to be done in a way that we are in charge of the pleasure. When we are in charge of the pleasure and we regulate our pleasure, then that's the pleasure which is going to bring us to the ultimate pleasure of Lisanig al Hashem. And that's what all the Torah mitzvahs are there for. That's why this is the Tachlis Adam. This is what the person was created for. And that's what all the mitzvahs are there for. The mitzvahs are there to guide us and to give us guidance in how to regulate our pleasures, to be able to use them as a conduit to bring us to the eternal pleasure. That's the Lisanig al Hashem. So obviously the purpose is to have pleasure. But if a person's just going to say, okay, I'm just going to take physical pleasure without any din v'cheshbon, it's not going to get him there. He's going to try, and then eventually the pleasure takes him over, and he keeps on just becoming meshubet to it, and he can't get out of it. That's the idea of that's why to get to Lisanig al Hashem. I once heard from a Talmud Rav Dessler that he explained b'shem Rav Dessler. The Rav Dessler said you have to say no to be able to say yes. When you have a pleasure which you want to take a pleasure, you have to first be able to tell yourself, can I say no to this pleasure? Am I capable? Do I have the innate capabilities to say no to this pleasure? If you have that capability to say no, then you have the capability also to say yes. He brought a story with Rav Dessler that when his family was interred in Australia during the Second World War, Rabbi Dessler was in England, and he had no clue what was happening to his family, whether they were alive or dead. He'd left them in Europe, and he had escaped to England, and when the war broke out, they were stuck in Europe. And they landed up in Australia. After about 3 years of not having a clue what happened to his family, a telegram arrived, and he refused to open it. He said he's waiting a couple of hours to control himself from opening it, then he's happy to open it. That was the idea. You first say no, then you say yes. It's the same thing with anything. If you say no first, then you can say yes. The Einik Shabbos, l'moshel. Einik Shabbos brings us to the highest madregas. But it's only when within the parameters of, can I say no? Then I can say yes. If during the week you don't make your whole week like the Shabbos, then when it comes to Shabbos, you can actually enjoy the Shabbos. That's the idea. That's how I understand the way of reconciling the two ideals. The ideal of having pleasure, the ideal of refraining from pleasure. That's the idea. The ideal of refraining from pleasure is also to enable us to have pleasure. Because if we wouldn't do that, then we would just partially get stuck. I've been talking a little bit to Rabbi Kutaf over the last day or two since after our reunion after about almost 20 years. And I've been hearing from him about how much he loves every single one of the Talmidim here, how much he delights in their successes, how pained he is by their setbacks, and how he is always hoping for the best in every single boy. It's such a wonderful schus to come here, to speak to such a tzibur who are Mevakshi Hashem. They come from all over America because they want to steig and they want to grow in their Yiddishkeit. Hashem should help. So all of you should be gebenched. You should have loads and loads of atzlocha in everything you do in your life. And you should always feel the pleasure of Olam Hazeh, which will bring you to the pleasure Leisanig al Hashem.
Guys, dismiss to lunch.